And the first item up for this, Ring of Hecate, we're going to be decreasing the attack speed on the item, and we're also going to be decreasing the magical lifesteal.
Damn.
Yeah, so I think you're going to see a couple of things that are going to be familiar to the community. ADC mages are going to be taking a little bit more of a hit. We've seen, Hecate still rising in dominance even with the last pair of nerfs. So we're going to do a couple of small tweaks here to the base stats, but you're going to be seeing a little bit more in tune with the ADC mages coming along next.
For sure. All right, let's move right along to another item nerf that's kind of in line with this Ring of Hecate nerf. You've got Typhon's Fang up next, and we're going to be decreasing the healing obtained from magical lifesteal from 40% down to 30%.
Yeah, Ring of Hecate and Typhon's Fang, those are items that are built together and synergize really well. They give a lot of the magical ADCs really high boxing capability, and so toning both of them down at once is going to be a big hit to like the core build.
Typhon's Fang heals less now. And
we got one more item up for bonus balance, and this is kind of targeted towards some of our basic attack junglers here. Hasten Katana going to be seeing a nerf.
Hasten Katana is getting nerfed.
The attack speed on the item. We're also going to be decreasing the movement speed.
Decreasing.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a lot of rise from the ADC mage as well as the attack damage assassins. We did some messing around with the jungle with the
20% to 15, and then movement speed 10 to 7. Well, that makes sense because that's what they did with all the.
And again, with the ADC mages, we're going to see a couple of attack damage assassins as well, specifically gods, get some hits as well as this item for Hasten Katana. Just a little bit of a tweak.
For sure. All right, that wraps it up for items. Let's move right along to gods. And everybody watching, this is not an alphabetical order, but there's definitely a method to the madness. And we'll go ahead and kick it off with Tsukiyomi. Before I break down all the changes,
Tsukiyomi's getting touched.
How did Tsukiyomi kind of land when he released last patch?
Yeah, so we had a lot of interesting theories internally about where he'd fall. We knew that he was an assassin without mobility, but we knew that he also had high damage to kind of make up for that fact and some control tools in his kit. And so when we first got stats, he was actually doing pretty well. And then people very quickly learned all the intricacies and really dominated with him. He had really good stats across the board, and so now we're here with some pretty consistent nerfs across the board, focused mostly on affecting his base damage output. And seeing where he falls after these kind of adjustments.
His 2 does insane damage.
The theme around this is just taking his damage down a little bit. And we're going to be seeing that with Dark Moon Shuriken, bringing down the scaling, Kusari Gamma, decreasing the damage on all 3 hits, as well as decreasing the disarm time. Silver Moon Caltrops, we're going to be decreasing the damage on that. And then finally, Piercing Moonlight, we're going to be decreasing the dash damage. So every single one of his abilities is going to be dealing a little bit less damage.
They nerfed everything.
When he's played Pure Assassin, he does a lot of damage, but also when he was building Bruiser, he was doing
I just didn't like that. I saw him and I died.
This base damage nerf will affect not only his early clear and early jungle capabilities, but also how effective his early ganks are, and then, of course, just how he scales into the late game. His scaling is still quite high on a lot of things, but we're going to watch that closely, see how these adjustments address him first, hitting some of the control that he also got as utility. And if we need further nerfs, maybe some more scaling targeted nerfs, we can also do that in the future.
I don't really need to.
Most definitely. All right, let's move on and talk about some magical ADCs. We've got Oleron coming up first with the nerf here.
Oleron's getting nerfed.
We're going to be decreasing the bonus damage on Oleron's critical strikes from 60% to 50%, and I'll let Clumsy take it away here.
What?
Yeah, this is a revert to a buff that we gave him previously. Oleron's been pretty interesting, where he's always been seen to be a very strong god, especially with that ultimate, and I think that's going to be a big point of discussion. But with the ADC mage items that have increase in power, we found some of the buffs that we gave him recently to be kind of unnecessary, and we want to bring him down without having to touch the ultimate, which is such a fine tuning dial that we want to be very careful of. We think with the item changes, with this revert, he should be in a much better spot. We don't think we'll see him, as highly prioritized in the SPL, and it'll probably be okay with this one.
I'll still play him.
All right. The next magical ADC we've got up next is Freya, and we're going to be making a change to Pulse here, decreasing the slow from 25% at all ranks, and that's going to be scaling up from 15% up to 25%. What's going on with Freya, Fawn?
So Freya's kind of complicated, right? She's like our character that actually did like a full-on reverse.
Instead of having it 25 the whole time, which was kind of dumb.
We do for her. In this case, we figured the items were the things that are mostly enabling her, and so we've toned them down. But it does seem that her early control, especially when Pulse lands and slows everyone, that allows her to fall up really heavily with a lot more damage. Reducing the slow, especially in the early ranks where you might prioritize your single target damage over this in some cases, will make for a meaningful choice, and also make it so
they should probably tune her damage, but they're tuning the items, so I don't know if tuning her damage
that
means anything anymore.
ADCs and bonus balance. Let's talk about some basic attack assassins now. Bakasura is going to be up first, and we're making a change to Insatiable Hunger, decreasing the attack speed and movement speed per stack on that, and then also decreasing the slow duration on Regurgitate.
Yeah, so whenever we do jungle changes, Bakasura and the one coming up are always one of the gods that, just fluctuate really highly depending on what we do for them. The jungle got a little bit tankier, like we mentioned before, and Bakasura is one of the gods that can just clear the jungle extremely well with the Eat minion. We're doing small reverts on the Insatiable Hunger, and Regurgitate is something we want to touch specifically because we know there's a lot of frustration factor when it comes to that ultimate, and we didn't want to increase the CC immunity again he gained there, so we're going to try or decrease it. We want to play around with the slow as well, and we think this coupled with the haste and katana nerf should be pretty good to bring him in line.
All right, the next one up is specifically for Yupon. We're going to be making a nerf to Arachnid here. We're going to be making a change to Venomous Bite, decreasing the damage per tick on that ability. So talk to me about Arachnid, Ponpon.
Yeah, Arachnid's really strong. She got some itemization that also really helped her out. And with jungle changes, she's again a character that wildly fluctuates. She was on the uptick from that. So we were looking at a way to address her overall clear speed and her gank potential. And Venomous Bite with its base damage of 450, which is something that she could pop onto a target and they really had no answer to. So we're lowering the damage on that, lowering her lethality, and combined with other item adjustments that we have, this should put her into a good spot.
Junglers.
For sure. All right, we've got a few more gods left for this bonus balance round, and these next ones are going to be focused a little bit more on what we've kind of been seeing in the SPL, what's going on with the Pro League plays. So first up, we've got Persephone. We're going to be making a nerf to Harvest, the Sprout. We're going to be decreasing the magical power scaling damage, and also decreasing...
Which is that one? Meter. Is that her, the plants in the ground?
Bud, you want to go ahead and take this one?
Yeah,
sure. So yeah,
Harvest is one of those abilities that has a lot of different skill potential at different skill levels.
Well, I didn't know
and
that.
At the very top end, Sprout, the one that explodes, is actually the most commonly used because players know how to juke around the kind of targeted plant. So you see a lot of skill for use of this ability, but it is a very consistent, very easy to confirm, hard to play around type of ability when she has her whole field out. And so Harvest being reduced on both the damage output scaling and the slow will make her less safe, let her deal less damage, especially in like the late game, and should take a little bit of the edge off, allowing other mages to really kind of come into the slot and compete with her for picks and bans.
For sure. All right, next up we've got Amaterasu, another highly contested pick so far in this phase.
She getting
going to be making a change to Heavenly Reflection, decreasing the damage on the ability from 70
if they're nerfing Alma, they better touch Cthulhu, because Alma's the only one that really competes with Cthulhu.
Yeah, and that's going to be specifically a change
towards the late game.
Amaterasu early game, we've seen fluctuate a little bit. We think she's in a really good spot with that mirror damage, so that whether it's casuals or the SPL, she can now compete in the early game, where before it might have been a little bit harder. And to the late game, where that damage does go pretty high, the multiplier on the nerf that we're doing here is also going to affect the full damage of the mirror, and that should hit even more heavily into the late game. So I think just the small changes here will help make sure Amaterasu is not too overwhelming.
All right, next up, we've got Cthulhu here.
There you go.
Descend into Madness, the ultimate ability. We're making a change here. We're going to be decreasing the duration that he is in his form from 12 to 16 seconds, and that's going down to 10 seconds to 14 seconds. So minus 2 seconds at all ranks there.
Yeah, if you've ever been in the dual lane or the soul lane, they hit Cthulhu at level 5 and gets to just kind of wail on you for a while. The extra 2 seconds off means
it's only like what 20-25 seconds cooldown.
Maybe
it should be like 30-35.
And so this is just going to take some of that edge off the ultimate, make it so enemies have a bit more counterplay around it, lower time dealing with the effects of this kind of descent into madness.
Yeah. All right. And we've got one more Guardian left up for bonus balance. Our last god here that we're changing next week is Yamoja. We're going to be making a change to Bouncing Bubble, decreasing the damage, and also decreasing the slow duration for
that's a lot of time.
Yeah, so Yamoja is also an interesting one.
From
obviously, her not
to
having mana really affects the way she starts playing the game. And we talked to a lot of different pro players and casual players. She's actually not doing that well in the casual scene, like at all.
No,
I believe she's sub 50 by a pretty good margin. But in the SPL, she's pretty much 100% big ban, and that's where we have to be very careful. We expect this nerf to be, pretty big hit to casuals.
Yeah, the Yamoja like never gets
they've been kind of vocal recently, in the past few months to make sure that she is still pretty strong. The decreased damage we think is going to hit the SPL
when you see
pretty
someone
heavily,
like Mike and Aurora using her.
where she's not going to be able to clear waves with the Hunter, just like, at level 1 and 2, where she has access to so many abilities. So these are going to be some pretty big damage nerfs, as well as the slow to help, those competitive players set up for the next abilities and their partners. So hopefully this will be okay, and the casual players won't suffer too much from it.
For sure. We'll see where she lands next week when these nerfs go live. So that wraps it up for bonus balance that's going live next week. But we also got a few skins that we want to show off that are going to become available next Tuesday.
I mean, they always talk about next week and then the following patch, so hopefully they do that.
We've got a ton of bundles, ton of awesome skins, and the final bundle in the New Moon event is going to be going live next week. And the first skin that we kind of want to highlight from bundle 4 of the event is Shadow Weaver Neath, and I believe we've got the card art ready that we'll show off. And this one's looking super sick. What do you think about it, guys?
All the skins in like this theme are just so cool. Every single one has they're very similar, but then they have their own take and flavor that just is so cool.
Also, what if there's a creature in the back of that card art? That was terrifying.
I know.
Yeah, it's not even like a horror game.
I definitely love these, and I believe we've got a voice pack line ready for you guys. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Pretty things here. I will weave such a pattern for you.
That's awesome. Definitely going to be one that I'm looking forward to. Shadow Weaver Neath, another skin in our kind of Shadow Spirits line coming up in Bundle 4 of New Moon. And the other skin that's coming up in Bundle 4 of the New Moon event is Unbroken Osiris. And this one is like super cool.
Oh, I like this one.
Look at that helmet. Clumsy, what do you think about this one?
I love just like looking at the different armor pieces, and you kind of just, whether it's the card art or in game, you can see something new each time. It's really ornate, and I think that's really intricate and interesting.
It looks like his Grim Omens one, kind of.
And as we go into into the turnaround video and take a look at the model, you guys will definitely see some of the more details on the weapons and stuff.
I like this skin.
I definitely don't want to go against that guy in lane.
Yeah, he does.
That's scary.
He's at weapons.
I wonder what he's going to look like when he's all fragmented up.
I know, right? Let's go ahead and take a listen to that scary voice pack that he's got.
Come, embrace the pain.
He is definitely ready to box in solo lane. Like I said, I do not want to go up against him. But cool that wraps it up for the New Moon event. That's the final bundle that's going to be available in the event. And I just want to take a moment to remind you guys that if you guys get all 4 bundles in the New Moon event, you'll be able to unlock that unlimited angelic Archon Yemoja that we revealed on the last update show. It's a super sick skin. The effects on it are really cool. If you guys missed out, I know there was a lot of feedback on the initial model. We made some changes to that. It definitely looks super awesome in game. Shout outs to the art team for being able to bring that out to you guys.
Okay.
So next up, we've got the Dreamweaver chest that is coming out for you guys. And the skin in this chest is going to be Dreamweaver Ganesh. And this one is, I didn't know how to feel about it at first. It's kind of like, I don't know if he's
say no more.
Is he supposed to scare me or is he supposed to be peaceful? But he's definitely from an otherworldly plane. What do you guys think about this one?
It makes me think of Reckoning.
It's a very interesting take on like forest kind of guardian spirit type creature. Like it's really hard to place him, but man, I love like the different takes on Ganesh.
I'm gonna get this skin.
Dagger is
the pink and teal look really cool, and I love the weapons that he's got.
The color scheme is pretty awesome.
The tail, look at the tail.
Let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack for
it's a flower.
Ganesh.
Through peace we will bring balance. Through balance we achieve victory.
I'm getting this skin.
I want it, yeah.
I'm getting this skin.
So he doesn't seem super sticky there. I think he's friendly there.
That skin is mine.
All right, so the last skin that we've got coming up in the bonus update for you
Ganesh
guys
is fun.
is Interstellar Oleron. And I got to give a shout out to my man Kalani, who works on the team. The concept
Why does he look like Dr. Octopus?
Was this a Kalani concept? Hell yeah.
Yeah, this is a Kalani concept, and definitely want to give a shout out.
How does it look?
Futuristic.
My favorite is the Ganesh one.
Looks so
100%.
dope.
And it looks
because it just gives me that
awesome.
RPG game vibe. Because it like those always the funny looking plants and stuff.
Yep.
This one turned out super sick. I love the way that the helmet it's not the traditional astronaut helmet. It's kind of super futuristic and pushes that sci-fi narrative.
I still like the other one, the one with the skull, the one that gives me Dormammu vibes.
Figure out what's going on once we take a listen to the voice back here.
Allow me to enlighten you.
Oh, I like the voice.
So he's definitely got
seems like
some
an evil
ulterior motives there going on. That's kind of a little Easter egg for you guys. Once you hop into PCS, listen to some of those voice pack lines and see if you guys could come up with a story.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a reference to Moon.
Really awesome.
Zombies, that'd be
that
funny.
Wraps it up for the bonus update that's coming up for you guys next week, next Tuesday. Be on the lookout for Smite Game on release information for that.
That's next week.
We also
next
got
week,
some
Ganesh.
community news that we want to go over with you guys. If you right into balance here, and we're going to kick it off with Conquest, the Centaur ability rework in the jungle. This is the speed buff. We're going to be doing a rework to his ability. We renamed the ability to Charge Thrust, and the buff holder is now going to be doing a charge as its 4th attack, and we're going to be decreasing the range and decreasing the ability wind up on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got some feedback around that when you're trying to pull the camp out to the edge of the area, you'd often stop and do this attack, so we put it further in the chain. The range is a little bit shorter, but it's a little bit faster. Often it was very easy to juke for junglers who were trying to juke it, and so it's going to be a little bit more challenging. Just reduce some of the frustration around fighting it, as well as make it a bit more challenging to fight directly.
I don't really care too much about the...
All right, let's move on right into items. And right at the top, we've got a couple of interesting items that are getting some pretty significant changes, like almost rework level changes here to a couple items. Let's start off with Serrated Edge. We're going to be doing a shift here, increasing the cost, decreasing the physical power, but adjusting the passive. For every non-ultimate ability on cooldown, you gain a stack of Cruelty. Each stack provides 10 basic attack power and 3% lifesteal. Who wants to talk to me about Serrated Edge?
That's gonna be like Soul Eater almost.
Yeah, go for
it. Serrated Edge is kind of the assassin 20% pen item. It has a very unique passive.
Oh my god, Arachnid's gonna be scary.
But it required all 3 to be on cooldown, which made it very limited on what gods could do. Some of them are like
how many stacks can you get?
Effectively. Some have a very hard time or have very low cooldowns.
Every non-ability on cooldown you gain a stack. Oh, so you get 3 stacks. So that's
we're making
30
it a bit
power.
More usable overall. Now we'll just care if you have a ability on cooldown,
9%
you get a stack, so you can get a
lifesteal.
maximum of 3 stacks. Which means other assassins can now use this, but because now it's just universally stronger, you're going to have more uptime on this type of buff. We had to do some adjustments to its item stat cost, its power, as well as the amount of stats provided. So it's a weaker item overall when it's fully online and fully functional, but you also have that extra flexibility now where you can use it. So this should put it into a more usable spot.
They did increase the cost.
Just basically only Arachnid was the character that was using this.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what other kind of junglers pick this up after the changes that go live. Next up, for another item that's getting a pretty significant shift, you've got Heidi the Nemean line, and we're making a change to the passive. The new passive is going to be every 15 seconds, you gain a block stack for every 100 total protections from items that you have, preventing the next basic attack from damaging you, and the stack lasts, it can only stack up to 3 times.
Yeah, so we think this is, the reflect.
I think they want this to be more for tanks than for the mages.
But the problem with the Nemean line in its previous iteration, or its current one, is that a lot more people than we intended were picking it up. We were seeing it
like
in
the
a variety
mages
of
were
cases,
picking it up, the
the
hunters sometimes picked it up.
Mages were picking it up to
So
kind
it
of
was
deny the
just,
assassins from jumping.
that's why I understood why no one played auto attack assassins.
The tankier characters, the
because that was more of like to counter them.
In order to do so,
if you get those 3 stacks, then you have Shell, which also blocks auto attacks apparently. I didn't know that.
You're going to be needing another item
to
drive
block
over that
1 or 2 autos, I think.
From items to gain your first
So
block
imagine
stack.
taking all those hits, that's enough time for you to just jump and react on the person who's hitting you.
Yep, the tankier you are, the better it is.
You just turn the fight automatically.
Exactly. So build those protections.
And if someone like Freya, Aura, who have lifesteal, have that on them.
Some bows that are getting some buffs here. We'll kick it off with Charged Bow, and we're going to be...
which is Charged Bow?
Now has bonus damage. That's 30% of your physical scaling.
Building up to
What's going on with the bows?
Yep.
The yellow one.
The Odi bow has a scaling component to it, but the tier 2 version of it does not, which meant the tier 2 item felt very underwhelming. If you were building into it, it was really just not useful item until you actually got it all the way upgraded.
It now has 30%
so we're giving it some scaling, so building into
scaling.
that kind of build path is a bit more easy. You can back and buy this and feel pretty good about it, rather than upgrading straight directly to Odysseus' bow.
Oh, okay. So they're doing. They're giving you the passive
early.
early.
That's an item I feel like I haven't said in a long time. We're going to be increasing the buff and debuff duration from 3 to 5 seconds, and then we're also making a fix, adjusting some text here to this and Ring of Hecate to better match the wording for the same effects that they provide.
Yeah, so the strength of Ring of Hecate definitely brought the comparative question to the Hunter item that's very similar, which is Ichabod. We know a lot of people wanted to see some crazy buffs to Ichabod instead of just nerfing Ring of Hecate. We didn't think lifesteal to Ichabod was probably the right route, so we decided to go for some small nerfs for Ring of Hecate. And then we noticed that Ichabod had a 3-second buff time while Hecate had 5. We decided to bring that in line to at least give you the same kind of boxing potential for the same duration.
Cool. All right, let's move on to some mage items now. Charon's coin up first.
Whoa.
We're going to be decreasing the cost of the item, adding 7 HP 5, and then for the evolved version, we're going to be increasing the HP 5 and the NP 5 on the item.
Yeah, at this point we have a lot of data on like usage rate and how good these magical pen items are. And Charon's coin, which was really picked up at the start, has fallen out of favor. People really aren't
decreasing the cost, adding
overall,
HP 5.
Ooh, so we're reducing its cost to make it easier to build into and giving it a little bit of extra flavor.
Increase
it now has a little bit of HP 5 to start out, to give you some extra
20 to 35.
And the evolved form actually gets more intense.
Not bad.
So evolving it is more worthwhile.
Might be worth. Might.
Definitely. This was one of my favorite items when the season launched, so I'm excited to start picking it back up again.
One goal every time.
There we go.
I mean, the only person I could think of using it mostly is Baba Yaga.
Decreasing the cost from 3,000 down to 2,850.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Doom Orb is also one of those items that we did a lot of changes to, and while it's still pretty strong, we think the cost is pretty prohibitive, so we're going to be decreasing the cost slightly and go from there. We think it's going to be pretty good in this iteration.
I'm happy with that. No longer 3,000 gold.
One more mage item up next. We've got Warlock Staff, and we're going to be decreasing the cost on the item, and then making a change to Sorcerer's Staff to tier 2. We're going to be adding
They're
some
decreasing Warlock Staff
from 30 up to 40
cost.
Yep, so you can see the theme here, a lot of underutilized mage items, just bringing them up so that they're a bit more competitive, increase the item pool that mages have to use. Warlock Staff was underwhelming, we're decreasing the cost to make it easier to build into, and then the Sorcerer Staff,
Baba Yaga will be getting online
felt
faster.
really bad compared to other starter routes that you could go, so making it stronger so it competes with other kind of choices that you could make.
All right, let's move on and talk about some tank and guardian items, and this one, I feel like I definitely haven't said this item in a long time, Bulwark of Hope. We're going to be increasing the percent HP threshold where the shield triggers from 30% up to 40%.
Get a shield.
Yeah, so this should mean that Bulwark of Hope's trigger will happen a little bit more often. We looked at it, had a look at its stats and costs. We think it's generally in a pretty good spot. This change will help it bring it a little bit more prevalent, especially in a meta now where there's a lot more shield counters.
A boost to its shield, especially with new anti-shield counters, should help it feel impactful.
Next up, we've got Heartward Amulet. We're going to be increasing the magical protections provided for by the aura from 15 to 20, not percent. I'm sorry.
Heartward.
Yeah, so before we kind of move on to this change,
I never grabbed that unless I'm playing Ares.
Tinkier items, either for actual pure guardians or bruiser kind of tinky warriors. And there's one I'm not on here, which is the sledge. I know a lot of people are building sledge a lot, probably expect it to be a little bit too strong and expect kind of a nerf for it, but we're not doing that right now. We think that warriors actually kind of rely on its core strength. So rather than adjust it right now,
so
we want to bring up other options so that there's more opportunities for warriors to build different things.
I don't mind, I like sledge, but sledge is really good.
Just to make sure that warriors aren't just being taken down too early. Give them some more options and then address sledge more directly. So Heartwood Amulet on that list, it just felt underwhelming compared to Sovereignty. So giving it
I'm
more,
excited to see what they plan to do with the gods in this patch too.
Cool. All right, let's talk about some anti-heal now. We've got Pestilence, and I'll kind of lump these two together. Pestilence and Contagion. We're going to be increasing the health on both the items by 50. Pestilence is 200 to 250. Contagion is 100 to 150.
Yeah, we did a lot of passes on the anti-heal items previously for the offensive ones to make sure that it didn't
most
really
people
feel bad
Contagion.
to pick up the items, right? So the Divine Ruin and Brawl Speed 6, you actually don't mind picking up. They're pretty decent, but Pestilence and Contagion never really quite felt that way. They're okay, but we think with this 50 health boost, you'll actually feel like you definitely kind of want to pick this up and feel favorable for it.
I was always like, I'm going to just grab a Cursed Donk.
All right, last up for items.
Sometimes it wasn't worth grabbing those items.
Decreasing the cost from 2450 down to 2350.
Wait, for what item?
Yeah, we did adjustments similar to this before, making it easier to build into. We're just taking that a step further after we saw that some people experimented with it, but overall fell out. It probably needs to be brought down a little bit more. So we'll see where that kind of fits into warrior builds after this.
Wait, what item? I didn't see.
All right, let's move right along into gods, and I believe these might be in alphabetical order.
So
don't hold me to
decrease the cost.
We're going to start with Artemis. First up, Vengeful Assault. This ability will now additionally let Artemis cleanse herself of slows, and she will become immune to slows for 0.6 seconds when the ability is activated.
So Pod alluded to this earlier. There's definitely some spicy stuff in some of these god changes. We wanted to go through and take this time in between god patches to look at a couple of gods who we think could use a little bit of extra flavor, a little bit of extra love. Artemis has seen some great days. She's seen some poor days. But we wanted to help her with one of her weak points. She doesn't really have mobility or an escape option. By giving Vengeful Assault, this slow cleansing effect that we usually have seen in Kukulkan, we think she'll be able to get out of trickier situations without having to necessarily use her ultimate. So hopefully this goes over pretty well.
Yeah, this is definitely a spicy one. I'm looking forward to seeing how the community receives it. Next up, we've got Baba Yaga. We're going to be making a buff to her here.
Another buff?
We're going to be decreasing the cooldown, and it's going to be 14 seconds at all ranks.
On what?
Yep, she's probably getting pretty close to the point where she's in a really, really good spot. Some people really think she's already good. Some think she's really underwhelming still. Baba's Brew, the 16-second cooldown at the earlier ranks,
needs more buffs.
made it very prohibitive to brew potions. You couldn't really
they're also decreasing the Warlock Staff
and also hurt her
cost.
early game and mid game clear significantly for not having those
it's
on
like they really want Baba
so just
to
reducing
be
the cooldown to 14 seconds
at the
all
top.
ranks will help her out, kind of smooth out her gameplay experience.
For sure. Next up, we've got Chak. Going to be making a change to Thunderstrike, increasing the physical power scaling by 10%.
Yeah, I mean, Chak is a little bit of a jack of all trades, right? He's got a really good laning phase. I think
he might be useful, increasing the power scaling, because his damage falls off so hard.
And only has that team-wide, ulti, the big silence hitting. But other than that, he doesn't do as much. We want to give him a little bit more love, a little bit more power, so those Thunderstrikes are not going to be hitting a little bit harder.
Yeah, hits super hard.
Scaling changes do a really good job for a lot of
warriors. But once you get level 15, 20, that doesn't really do anything other than the silence.
Next up, we've got Changa. We're going to be making some changes to her base stats here, increasing her base HP and her HP scaling per level.
Yeah, Changa is a very squishy
damage.
mage.
I was like, what?
She tries to rely on her evasion, but because she has to stay in melee range for so long, her evasion can only help her out so much. We're going to give her some tankier stats so she can actually play that kind of like bruiser mage role a bit more directly. She doesn't have as much HP or scaling per level as someone like Hades or Zhongqi. Those are like the actual pure tank kind of mages. But a little bit
feels way more tanky for me to kill than Zhongqi. I don't know if that's just me.
Bring her up. Maybe we'll see some play from Changa, where she's kind of been on the lower end of play for quite some time.
Right.
Every time I think I'm killing Hades, is nope.
Kind of on the lower end, hasn't really been seeing a whole lot of pickup. We've got Guan Yu. We're going to be doing a buff to Tallow Assault, increasing the damage per tick from 15 to 55. That's going up to 20 to scaling up to 60.
Yeah, we wanted to be very careful with Guan Yu changes. We've seen him be pretty strong. We did a lot of changes with his passive. Tallow Assault on paper does a lot of damage, but it's also got a short range, and it's not really the easiest to use. The long channel time for its damage means it's also pretty easily interruptible. So by increasing the damage just a little bit, we think that the effectiveness you'll be getting out of it in lane will be a lot higher. So hopefully that's the case for you guys.
Definitely. All right, and I heard this one in the balance meeting, and I'm pretty excited about it. We've got Geb up next.
Geb?
Making a change to Shockwave here, and we're going to be increasing the fall-off damage from 50% to 70% of the base damage of the ability.
Does that mean it does less or more?
What's going on.
Yeah, so melee range Shockwave does full damage, and max
so
range
more
does about
damage.
50%. We're bringing that 50% to 70%. So max range will be doing more. We've seen Geb be this kind of like pretty consistent support pick, but even in metas that we would expect him to do well, such as the crit meta, where his passive has like a lot of potential payoff.
With him, he's like wide graph spectrum.
Has been falling out of favor compared to other supports, and we feel like his overall toolkit is pretty strong, but the early laning phase and the mid game kind of limit what he can do. So we're bringing that up to make sure that Geb has an opportunity to kind of roll in matches.
Cool. All right, next up, we've got Nemesis, who's seeing a huge rise in popularity here over the past couple weeks, making a nerf to Slice and Dice here, decreasing the damage from 50 to 170 down to 45
only by
to 165.
Yeah, we played around with the Slice and Dice numbers quite a bit because, Nemesis kind of dies by this ability quite severely. It's her primary jungle clear, a really heavy DPS in fights as well. So this is a half revert from the buff that we gave her before to make sure that she still stays competitive. We think this plus the jungle changes we've done previously should help out.
Thing is,
and the SPL on a competitive level,
I think that only effective if you're building ability based needs.
We also want to be careful because we know that she's a pretty valid and valuable counter to Cthulhu as well.
Most people grab the blades. I feel like you're going to catch them because of your one.
Increase the way it has.
Regardless.
So we think this should be
and you have your ult up.
All right, we're moving right along here. We've got Ra up next. Going to be making a change to Celestial Beam, increasing the magical power scaling, and then Divine Light, Additionally, now this ability is going to cleanse Ra of slows, and he's going to be immune to slows for 0.6 seconds. So kind of like Artemis.
Oh. Yeah, you thought Artemis was the only one. We're actually doing it to Ra as well.
I mean, that's not
He's
that
another
bad.
character that doesn't really have a great way to be mobile. He also has to kind of get
like
close
a complete
and stay around
like, what?
range of fights to make sure he can land celestial beams,
But
use
no
Divine
slows?
Light,
That's
and
cool.
have heals for his team where they have to kind of group up. So Divine Light cleansing slows is going to help him, give him just that extra tool to survive some situations he wouldn't otherwise survive. And Celestial Beam getting the magical power scaling increase. This is a relatively hard to confirm ability. It's very well telegraphed, has a travel time.
Increase
and so
the
this
power
makes it
scaling.
more
Does that mean it
rewarding when
does
you do
more
land
too?
that skill shot.
So his beam is going to do more damage. It's
Moving
probably going
right
to hurt.
along. Next up, we got Zeus, and this is another fun one for this update. For base stats here, we're going to be
Wait, what'd he say?
increasing Zeus's
Who?
base
Oh,
attack
Zeus.
speed from 0.87 up to 0.95. And Pawn, I'll let you kind of explain
That
kind
is
of what's going
interesting.
on
I guess
with
they
this
want
one and how this will impact Zeus.
it so
Yep.
you get
so
his strike
the base
more
attack speed is one of the
consistently.
most important stats for like any in-hander. It affects how any percent increase works. So 10% now will actually give you 0.095 instead of 0.087, and he also starts with just more attack speed. So he's actually going to be throwing out his lightning bolts more often. He'll get extra synergy with his passive. He'll get extra synergy with the Aegis that he throws out. So just a nice quality of life buff for Zeus will help him clear a little bit better in Conquest, especially early on, and get that little extra bit out of his passive.
Awesome. I hear aggro cheering and celebration.
I do like
the
playing
Dragons.
him, so I actually
Yeah.
that's going to be cool
We got
when
two
I'm
more
playing him,
changes
but
here
playing
for
against
God
him.
Balance. And there are
It's gonna
actually
be
a couple
annoying
of
getting
regrets from
striked.
past nerfs that we've done.
Mhm.
First one is going to be for Odin and Gungnir's Might. We're going to be decreasing the cooldown from 14
Whoa.
seconds back down to 12 seconds.
Yeah, so when Odin got his ability change, he rose in popularity quite a bit, and then similarly to Isis, we just hit him with everything we got back to back on several different patches. We went through and basically I think all the cooldowns on his abilities have increased, and we chose one of them now to revert, because I think you guys have probably noticed in game, you don't see much Odin anymore after all the changes. So with this revert, we think we're going
It's
to
more
help
of like,
bring him back
I
to a
want to have
safe
some
spot.
fun. I'll play Odin.
Cool. All right, and then last up for God changes, we've got Hoon Bats. Making a change to Fear No Evil, the ultimate. We're going to be decreasing the cooldown, and that's going to scale up from 110 to 90.
Oh, Hunbats is back.
At all ranks.
You're going to see him again,
You'll definitely
boys.
recognize Moonbots' ultimate is definitely like one of the strongest portions of the kit and is a really great teamfight ultimate.
Yeah, it's like
but when we change it to
you can
120
1v1
seconds in
anyone
all
if you ever
ranks,
ult too.
we saw
If they don't have
Moonbots go
these,
from being played
GG.
pretty consistently to just falling off almost completely. We've seen a little bit of experimentation still, but not much success. And so we're going to revert this, especially with all the
'cause
changes we've done to the jungle,
nerf
what
mean you
junglers are
had to get
viable,
Jotun's
how
Wrath,
items
like,
have
right away.
shaked up. We feel like he can go back to 120 or to the scaling down. And then we're going to look at potentially other places to nerf him if we do actually.
This is also
need to.
good because that means you're not so afraid
All right, that
to
wraps it up for God Balance. We got through it,
Hunbats
guys.
into
There was a
one
lot
of
to
the
go
auto
over,
attack
but we did it.
gods.
Let's start talking about some skins. We've got an all-new battle pass that's coming out
Oh,
in
that's
the
it?
Odyssey Reckoning update that's coming out towards September. And this one is called Necropolis. And this is a new thing that we're kind of taking on. Necropolis is kind of an old, forgotten, forsaken land with its own sets of kingdoms and rules. But everything is a little bit more
Necropolis
on
is
the
just
creepy
like
side, as you guys will see as
the
we start
underworld,
going
no?
through these skins. The first skin that we want to show off here is for Isis. It's called Razor's Edge, and this one is definitely awesome. It's got some green hints.
Wait, who's
She's
this?
wearing a
Is this
mask
Athena?
staying safe.
That
So
mask
this
is
one
cool.
It looks like Athena.
That's cool.
Or is
What do
that
you guys
Isis?
think?
I mean, that's just
Yeah,
neat.
that-
I love the staff.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
'cause
staff's cool.
I didn't
Just
pay
looking at
attention.
like the creepy skull like mask at the bottom with the like the jaws hollowed out. I think that immediately drew my eye.
I know, right? I love the green energy, and I'm definitely loving the treatment
Isis, yeah.
on the wings, how they're kind of like metal
Oh.
there. But I wonder how she sounds
Yeah.
wearing
I
that
mean, it looks
mask.
cool.
So let's take a
I don't
listen
play
to the
Isis,
voice
though.
back here.
Long have I wandered this plane, searching for someone to torture.
The voice pack is cool.
Razor's Edge Isis, and I believe this is going to be the first skin in the battle pass. So when you pick it up, this is the first skin
it's the
that
new
you'll be
battle
able to
pass.
unlock, and I'm definitely looking forward to that
No,
one.
I
But
didn't.
I'm also looking forward to the next skin that we want to show off because it is Infernal Omen Tsukiyomi, and it is
Already
Tsukiyomi's
getting
first
a skin?
That's actually a real quick turnaround on that.
Oh,
What do you guys think about
that
this
looks
one?
sick.
I mean, I love the two weapons that we have for him where they are kind of opposing because the art team gets to just do so much cool stuff with it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised
know, right?
Cthulhu didn't
It's
get
so
a
awesome.
skin already.
Cool.
Especially when he's with
Yeah,
like
let's go ahead and take a
really
look at the
blew up.
model here. I want to see how those weapons look.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Love the treatment. I definitely love the taste of having one weapon a lighter color and then
it gives me like almost a Devil May Cry.
I know, right?
With
Let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice back.
It reminds me of the Demon Sword Sparta.
My blades thirst for your blood.
I like the voice.
And he wasn't edgy enough.
I know, right? So this is Tsukiyomi's first skin. So we actually want to take a little bit of time and show him off to you in game. So I believe Pawn is our driver for today, and production is going to get us right in.
Cthulhu skin?
So I'm surprised. Some of the abilities that and how things are going to look once you unlock the skin in the battle pass. So Pawn, take us through and let's look at what he's got going on here. Basics look so clean.
Ooh.
Love the dark. The red and black is classic.
And the color scheme is just really good on him.
I love how it's got like the dark trails. You got the bright red, but still
the spikes look cool.
Black. Oh, those caltrops are definitely creepy.
Yeah.
That'd be funny if for some reason they got Kingdom Hearts to collab with them and they just made Riku easily into the Tsukiyomi skin.
Lots of really cool effects.
I know, right? Tons of cool effects. The art team definitely killed it on that one. That's the second skin in the battle pass. We're done in game here. We got a lot to cover, so we got to get through it. The next skin from the battle pass that we want to show off is actually our battle pass recolor for this one, and it's actually going to be Sinister Sentinel Athena, and this one is a recolor of a past Athena skin. I believe it's called Blight Guardian. Is what
Athena.
And I love, I believe Blight Guardian is
could be Nemesis.
This one's got more of a brownish reddish tone here. What do you think of this one, Clumsy?
Because you know how the animations work.
That's cool. I like seeing these recolors in the sense that you don't almost realize that it's
could be a dodge roll.
Right? I saw this and I didn't actually assume that already because it's a completely different palette that we went with.
Yeah, the first time I saw it in game, I just didn't recognize it.
I know, this one's super awesome. I believe we've got a turnaround ready, so we'll be able to see a little bit more how it looks in game. Yeah, the browns and the red hair and the little hints of green definitely are catching my attention here. I'm super excited to check this one out. This one is a recolor, so no new voice pack here. But you guys will be able to get this one. It is on the free track of the Necropolis Battle Pass. So as long as you're playing, getting those battle points, you'll be able to unlock the skin. As you
this is included in the Battle Pass. Oh, so I'm gonna get it regardless.
And we've got one more battle pass skin that we want to show off to you guys. Infernal Father Odin. And this one, he is the king of Necropolis. He is kind of the high-ranking Inquisitor. And I just love the aesthetic here. Pawn, you're my kind of RPG guy. What does this remind you of?
I mean, this is the final boss of the Holy Order evil group that uses light for bad. Look at that hammer in the background. Is he actually gonna be just swinging a hammer?
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I definitely want to.
Oh yeah, it's a hammer.
It looks sick.
Big old hammer. And
those shoulder pads are so spiky. Oh, this
He's
one looks
fat.
so cool.
Yeah, I want his armor set.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I know,
looks cool though.
Let's go ahead and take a listen to the voice pack as we wrap it up for this section.
Your judge, your jury, your executioner.
Yep, that sounds about right.
So this is in September.
Well, that wraps it up for the Necropolis Battle Pass section. We're definitely super excited for this new theme to get it in you guys' hands when the Odyssey Reckoning update goes live. But we just reviewed our next Battle Pass. That means that the one that's live in game is going away soon.